I know there's going to be some people joining us. There'll be a few more, or probably will be joining us. This particular live stream has two purposes, maybe even three. One purpose is I want to thank all of my supporters and subscribers to my channel. And number two, I'd like to answer some questions for you. I wanted to spend some time doing that, so that that might be of help to you and people can ask their own questions. And number three, I might also want to be talking about the online program and talking about its purpose, meaning, and why it could be very important for you. So the first thing I would like to do is I recently got something in the mail from YouTube. And maybe you have heard of those things they send out when there are certain milestones that are reached in terms of subscribers and number of subscribers. And it was wonderful to get their box in the mail. And in the box was a letter that read from YouTube and read, "Do you remember your first subscriber, your 100th, or your 1,000th subscriber? Chances are you do. And we know that you'll definitely remember your 100th subscriber. Your fans may have found you while searching YouTube, learned about you through a friend, or maybe you showed up as a recommended video. No matter how they came to your channel, your audience stayed and their numbers increased because of you and the community you built. We're proud to honor your impressive milestone of reaching 100,000 subscribers with the Silver Creator Award. Congratulations. We know that you have many more stories to share with your community, and we know your fans can't wait for you to amaze them even more with your commitment and creativity. So keep creating, keep building. We can't wait to see what you'll do next, and we're here to support you along the way. And who knows, when you reach your 1,000,000th subscriber, we may just write to you and ask, do you remember your 100th subscriber? Sincerely yours, Neil Mohan, YouTube CEO. Very nice letter and very affirming. And this had come in the mail, and if I open it up, it looks like this. I was trying to get it out of the light so you might be able to see it. This is the Silver Creator plaque for 100,000 subscribers. And I'm trying to think if I can get it out of the... And so I'll be putting that up in my office. I'm so thrilled, and I want to thank all of you for being supportive of me. And I remember in starting the channel many years ago, and the director of the counseling center that I was working at, he and I went back all the way to 1976. And he had strongly recommended that I post videos. Well, I was hesitant, of course, and there were two hesitations. Number one, I don't look like Brad Pitt. That was one hesitation. I thought, how are they going to look at this old guy and want to watch his videos? Number two, I thought the information I was going to share was going to be something nobody really was going to care about. It was going to be kind of a road less traveled. I mean, only if you want to do a certain type of work and kind of dig into your own past family history and also build a new solid self. Well, that's not what everybody out there is looking for. many people are looking for a quick fix. Here's 3 easy steps and you'll be healed or recover. And most people are looking for something rather quick. And this approach is slower, but I think more reliable, and it is and less reversible. In other words, we don't go through the same problem again and again and do the recycling. If you work a program of self differentiation, you really do make progress and don't go back. Now, why do I say that? How can I say that? Because of my own work and my own process of working on my own recovery and using a family systems approach to healing and recovery. And so I noticed what it was about, and I thought, well, if that's really true, then that should be my experience. And it was, and it became my experience. But again, I didn't think, I don't know how many people are going to be interested in that, because it does take some work, effort, looking into yourself. And again, there's just a lot of people who, because of their own paradigm, and whether a malignant regime, an unhealthy super self of the family, whatever they grew up in and became theirs from their family of origin, would keep them from wanting to go this direction because it's anti what they had growing up and what seemed so normal. When the terrible becomes normal, and so that normalcy, we don't look much beyond that because that's our paradigm. So it takes a little work to kind of work out of that paradigm. And I do want to mention that I have a program that I've been working on for 45 years, which shares tools, exercises, step by step for many aspects of the program. It also helps you understand why that's important. And in even understanding the why, it begins to change our old paradigm. And so I think it's very important that I put together this program that I've been, working on for a long time. And while it's not a perfect program, and we've been adding to it, and I'm going to continue to add to it, so that people can continue to do their work for many years to come, and also be reminded. I also believe another thing that's important is the more you immerse yourself in it, the more you change. And that was my experience from my own learning about family systems and learning about the things that I teach. The more I went over them and over them and over them, it began to break up that old dysfunctional belief system, the old dysfunctional emotional system, because we're a part of that old emotional system, and also begins to deal with the very older part of my brain, that reactive part of my brain. And if we can do some work to help control that reactive part of our brain, we really can make changes in our life because we're changing the unconscious. So speaking about the program, there are several people who have written testimonials. I will never put on a fake testimonial. I don't use fake testimonials. I wouldn't want that if I were looking at a program. So these are all real people who have shared their testimony without me calling them and saying, hey, please do this. They shared these things about the program, and I wanted to share them with you. Diane mentions in her testimonial, I've done many programs in my life, and 4 in the past year alone. This has been the most powerful program I've done so far. I've been following Jerry's videos for a while, but I was skeptical what additional value I would get in the program. the progress I experienced in my healing from being the family scapegoat by implementing the tools and videos was beyond my expectations. And that's according to Diane. And she just sends us that, and we're very grateful. Um, then there are others that say, I wish I had access to this program earlier in my life. Um, in the ad for the program, Jerry stated that by joining, I would save myself a lot of money on therapy. He was so right. I have trained therapists for many, many years. I know what therapists know. I also went through a very rigorous training when I was doing marriage and family therapy with AAMFT, which is a very stringent and difficult training for, because you really have to deal with your own issues to help other people with theirs. And so I know what's going on out there in the therapy world. And I know this program, I have not found it offered anywhere. I think there are some therapists who share same beliefs and values that I have, but it's going to be a smaller number. And so I know I'm not the only one who thinks this way. It's just not a common way, but I think it's one of the most powerful ways to think about our problems, dysfunction, trauma from a family systems perspective, and heal in a family systems perspective. So the program is there for you. We have, you can go there, you can make payments. We're trying to make it as easy as possible for people to join it and to be a part of the program. There are 6 modules. There's a lot in those. There's exercises, tools. Check it out. I don't think you'll. I do not think you will be disappointed. We are going to have it. The link is going to be up here in the chat. It's going to be in the description so that you could take a look at the program, go to the page and check it out. You can also check out the other testimonials that are on the page, not solicited, just given. And again, they are real people. I have these people and their information. So this is, there's nothing inauthentic about them. But the reason why I know they're not inauthentic, because in the last many decades, these are the kinds of comments that I have been getting from my clients, from my workshops, and it's a similar type of perspective. And again, I would have said the same thing when I began to do my work of recovery. And I was very much thought, and I had a professor who was talking in this way, the way I talk. And I'm going, I'm not sure I fully understand what he's saying, but I know he's right. But I don't know that's not the way I think. You know why it wasn't the way I thought? Because I have my old family of origin paradigm that's thinking for me and feeling for me and doing all that, which is why I'm hearing this stuff and going, I just think he's really right about what he's saying, but where did he learn this? How did he understand this? And so I was pretty amazed, and then went and talked with him, and he became my advisor, and he was a wonderful advisor and professor. And I also want to thank the director that I had many years ago encouraged me to start doing videos. And I really had to, I have my own insecurities. And I thought, well, who's going to watch it? Who are people they're going to look at this and go, well, that's too hard. I don't want to do that. Just give me A, B, and C, and then we'll move on. And he would encourage me and say, no, Jerry, I think it's more important than that. And I really think you should do those videos. And Mark Smith was his name, and he has since passed away. And but I am grateful for his encouragement to get my own channel started, so that people could have that option and opportunity. and you have that option and opportunity as well. So I think I've kind of covered the 100,000 subscriber celebration I wanted to have today. I should have brought some fireworks or something. It was such an exciting time. I think we're now up to 108,000 or something like that, and it continues to grow. I think this message is very important, and I have many people saying, "I wish they taught this in schools. I wish they taught what you taught." So somebody contacted me from the UN and said, I wish you would come and talk here." Um, and again, it's not so much I'm a genius. It's that the theory itself is really healing, affirming. It is biologically natural. It's the way the universe works. And I think when you're aligned with the universe, it tends to be pretty solid. And so that's why many times they call it natural family systems, because it's true everywhere. And I think we use those kind of concepts to help us recover. And that's what I do. So now I was going to ask you if you wanted to ask a question that you could write in capital letters question, and then write a question, and maybe I can be of help and offer that to you, and would be happy to do that if you'd like to do that. Uh, it's it's been a real um, exciting time. Also, putting your own self out there in front of the world, because there are people that watch this I had clients in Russia, I had clients in Saudi Arabia, I have clients, all over the world, that when you put that out there, that, gosh, you're talking about a lot of people. And also, not everybody's nice. So you have to kind of be able to brave the trolling and the craziness that goes on there. Nobody likes to, everybody's gonna, complain about, well, I don't like the color of your shirt. It's like, okay. And so you get a little more thicker skin and begin to realize people just have their own issues. And if I learned anything from the 12-step program, take what you can use and leave the rest. And that's what I tell people often. Take what you can use and leave the rest. If you don't like that part of what I said, take the other part and use it. That's fine. But many times people will, if you'll say something and they disagree with it, they will just cancel everything out. Well, why? There might be some useful things that might be useful for you. Just disregard that. I do that with other people and other YouTube videos I watch. I may go, oh, well, I don't believe that. But, this is a really good point. So we take what we can use and leave the rest. And that's what we plan on doing. So again, you're free to ask any questions if you have any. I was trying to think of the, getting back to the program. Also, I think about how it is. I just believe that if people don't take advantage of the program, I really think they're going to lose out on some of their life. Now, does that mean this is the only program that's of any value in the world? No, of course it's not. It is a program that I think that is important, and I believe can save you a lot of trouble, a lot of problems, and show you things that you may not be aware of. And the more we can be aware of, the less problems we can be dealing with and encountering. So I want to help with that self-awareness, family awareness, systems awareness, relationship awareness. If we see things clearly and non-reactively, and if we can learn to become more calm and thoughtful, there's not much you can't do. And you guys don't know me from 40 years ago. I don't think there's anybody here that knows me 40 years ago. Oh my gosh. I was going in circles and recycling all the time and just and if you'd have asked me, and I think I've said this many times, if you would have asked me, Jerry, do you think back then you could ever say you would feel like you feel now? And I would say, absolutely not. I would have said, you've lost your mind. There's no way I could ever feel that way. And now I have an opportunity to kind of feel normal, whatever that is, but at least normal. And so, and I think it does have some normal because the program and self differentiation is a way of discovering normal emotional process, mental process, relationship processes so that you do know what normal is and you can discover your own sense of self. Well, how do you explain yourself when asked by a narcissist family as to why you are done? Um, you mean why you want to go no contact, or why you're just I'm just done? Well, first of all, we want to work on, do we have to explain ourselves? And that's one of the first things that I will talk to folks about. Why are you explaining yourself? I just need to inform you that I am done. Well, what do you mean? How do you mean you're not? Why do you what do you mean you're done? I think you understand English. You know what I said. I'm just done. And I believe any further discussion on that will only start an argument or a conflict. I'm just declaring self, which is what we're doing, declaring self, because as being self differentiated, we will want to declare self at times. And declare self doesn't mean necessarily confront, it doesn't mean being reactive. It means I need to tell you in a calm, casual, cordial way, I am done. And or I'm going no contact, or I just go no contact. And then when they say, why aren't you coming around? Why aren't you seeing us? I believe I am done. Hope you have a good day. Hope you have a good life. I believe I am done. And well, you need to explain yourself. No, I don't think there's anywhere in the Constitution that says, or any political document that says, I have to explain myself, except maybe to a judge, but that's only if I break the law. Other than that, well, even as a defendant, you don't have to take the stand. So you don't have to defend yourself. I don't have to explain myself. I don't have to, because if they don't know it now, you giving them the reasons is not going to clear it up for them. I know we always want to kind of explain, or we feel we owe them an explanation. The problem is, if they don't already understand why you're doing it, what's your explanation going to do? I just don't think it's going to do much to change anything. Because if someone treats me badly, and I go, well, do you know you really treated me badly the other day? If I got to explain that they treated me badly, then they weren't even aware of it, aren't we already in a bad place? I have another question. I would like to understand the concept of how narcissism makes people physically, chronically ill with low grade issues that nag our body. And that's pink posted. There are things that are working in a narcissistic family, or actually in all families, in which we are connected. We are connected to the emotional process of the family that goes back generations. And that emotional process, mental process, and the relationship process of the family encompasses almost everything of us, including our mind, our amygdala, our our cells, our DNA, our and and so when a family is dysfunctional or toxic, unhealthy, mean, narcissistic, abusive, and many other ways, that takes a toll on our whole body, not just our mind, not just our emotions. But of course, emotions are very closely tied to the body. And in fact, when I remember working with in the psychiatric practice, the psychiatrist would have me ask them, "Hey, if he thought there was some brain damage or born with a little seizures or some kind of misfire, he would also ask him if they have any skin problems." And I'm going, well, why am I asking them if they have any skin problems? We're trying to find out if they, because the same layer that develops in the baby inside the mother, the same layer includes the brain and the skin. And so they're so connected. And so you can have rashes. If you have rashes, if you have this or that, it can have a lot to do with our brain. And so just like physical problems come up as a result of the stress, um, and the way the family operates, and what I've found many times, people have become healthier by gaining a greater sense of detachment, changing their emotional location in the family, becoming more detached, becoming more self-differentiated, staying more calm, not giving into their reactivity. And it's amazing how the body begins to react to those positive dynamics. And so we begin to get healthier because we're putting our body in a healthier environment and a healthier way. I hope that's a help to you, Pink. How can someone give up hope of in hopeless situations regarding narcissistic parents? How can or how can how can you give up hope in a hopeless situation? I think is what you might be asking, and particularly with narcissistic parents. Um, the one of the things that I would say is that there are reasons why we don't want to give up that hope. There can be a lot of reasons. I mean, they're your parents, they're your mother, they're your father, they're your family, they're your only family that you have. Who wants to give up hope on a family being healthy or happy or loving or giving or, who wants to give that up? And so that's kind of the normal, natural thing that goes on. Who wants to give up their family? But if a family is narcissistic or parents are narcissistic, it becomes much more difficult to hold on to that dream. But we will hold on to it because we want to share a reality with our family and our parents. We have an innate desire to share that reality together because we were born here. This is our family. And so that's a very strong force. And then we also have the downsides if we give up our hope for our narcissistic parents. What would be the downsides of giving up hope if you just keep hoping that they'll change, hoping they'll be different? If I gave that up, what would be the downsides? Now, the upsides I may feel better. I may be more detached. I may accept reality. Hey, I'll go focus all that energy on my own life. The downsides are, or could be, your downsides might be a little different than others. The downsides could be if I give up hope that they'll change, I will realize we don't have any relationship at all. And actually, maybe we never did. That's pretty scary. So we then will keep our hope alive. Number two, a downside, again, could mean, well, if I give up hope that they would be loving parents or caring parents, then who would do that for me? Because we haven't learned to do it for ourselves. So we're still waiting for them to do it, to be our loving parents. And we don't realize we're adults now. We now become our own loving parents. We reparent ourselves. And so those are some ideas. And if you have a hard time, and it's okay if you accept yourself, if you're having a hard time giving up that hope, just say and keep saying, I am not yet ready to give up that hope. And love and accept yourself for where you are. Because once you become connected more to yourself, that hope may just fall away. Because you've accepted the fact, hey, I'm not ready to give up that hope. Okay. But at least you're not saying, I want to give up the hope, but I can't. I want to give up the hope that I can't, but I can't. That's neurosis. That's neurotic. If I say, I do want to give up the hope, but I am not ready, that's sane. That's healthy. And then you will when you're ready. And I would keep affirming the fact that I'm not ready, because then it'll help our brain think about, oh, well, why am I not ready? And it'll get you thinking in some other ways. Thank you, Adriana. Godzilla Man. How do you handle family members who love the narcissist, not knowing of the hidden abuse for decades towards me? Well, that's a great question. And that can be very difficult. Certainly a very difficult dynamic to have when they have used the narcissistic regime and the malignant normalcy and the narcissistic normalcy of the trance on other people who just see them as, they don't know anything about these things. And what the stance that I take emotionally, mentally, physically, the stance I take at that point is, because I know, for example, my own mother in her situation, everybody thought she was a saint. There were some things she did well and did good, but not everything she did was a saint. And not always how she treated me was a saint. And so what do I do when they all think, oh my gosh, you must be so lucky, Jerry, to have had your mom. And in some ways I was, and in other ways I wasn't. And so what stance do I take at that point with them? And what I like to think about is a self-differentiating stance, being myself while staying connected. And so when they say, I don't know why you are so standoffish with your parents, or or the abuse in your family or whatever. I don't know. No, they wouldn't say that. Why are you so standoffish, or why you distance yourself? And again, I would say, I'm sure you probably don't know why. If you'd ever like to know, you can let me know. And again, they can ask you if they want to ask you. Or you seem to have gotten upset with your dad the other day, and he always seems to be supporting you and caring about you. He always tells me what he does for you and all that. Of course, he doesn't tell the abuse. He doesn't tell all the other things that went on for decades. And you can say, yes, I was upset with dad. It has been a long story and a long history that I don't think you have been party to. And so, or you may not see it the way I see it. And that's okay. They don't have to see it the way I see it, but I have a right to see it the way I see it. And that they can question me about it, but I'm just going to tell them, you may believe about my family or my parents any way you want to believe, but you may do it at your own peril because I'm not sure you have gotten the whole story. And that's okay. You don't have to get the whole story if you don't want to. But I have a part of the story that I think a lot of people don't have. And I have my own perspective on that. And again, I'm not sure, Godzilla Man, how um they love the narcissist. Oh yeah, they would come to you and say, "Oh, your father he's such a wonderful man. I just can't believe blah, 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 blah." And I would go, there may be parts of him that are lovable. There are other parts not so much. And again, I'm declaring self while not getting involved in the emotional process of that with them, because I don't want to get into a battle or reactivity. I just want to self declare or claim my reality in a non reactive way. They're free to believe about the narcissist anything they want. They can love the narcissist. They can say the narcissist or what they can do all that. I don't have to do that, nor do I have to keep them from doing it, and that I have my own perspective and I hold on to that, nail my foot to the floor. So as they try to take me around in circles, my foot's still nailed to the floor. That, yes, there have been some good things. There have been many not so good things. And I might share with them that. Well, I hope that has been a help to you. I'm starting to wear down, but I wanted to answer some questions, and that you're free to write my email address if you'd like. I really think if you want to know how to think like me, believe it or not, and sometimes it might be good for you to think like me. Other ways there may not be. You may not want to think like me. But if you want to think the way I think and giving these responses, knowing how to respond in that way, thinking on your feet, making it something you can do right at the time, join the program and it will help you to reach that goal. And I really do encourage you to do that. It will not be a waste of time. It will not be a waste of time. And for many people, they have said, "Oh my gosh, I wish I'd known this 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Why didn't somebody teach this?" Well, believe it or not, there are a lot of therapists who don't even want to learn this because they have to deal with their own issues to do it. Well, who wants to deal with their own issues? I just want to be a therapist who's has power over people and give them advice. I mean, and I was a young therapist many years ago once, and I know how it feels. It can be a little intoxicating. And then I go, but that's not really what I'm here for. And maybe I should work on my issues so that I can really help them with theirs. Hey guys, thank you so much for all of your support. I'm going to get a chance to read through the chat here and see some of the comments that you've made. I want to thank you again. I hope you will like this video. If you haven't subscribed, I hope you will subscribe to the channel. And then please join the program. I really think you will not regret that one day. Well, thanks for joining me. Have a great day and be wise. everybody. My name is Jerry Wise, and I'm a relationship expert and a relationship coach and the director for the Center for Self-Differentiation. I'm fortunate enough to be out here in Tucson, Arizona, and I was able to get away and I wanted to do a video, and I have clients here in Tucson and all over the country, actually all over the world, of those who want to learn about self-differentiation, learning how to self-differentiate. And today is a video that might be entitled Staying Calm When the System Is Not. And I think that's a very important skill for us to learn, because I think calmness is everything. Coming from a background of codependency and lots of anxiety, lots of reactivity, lots of panic and swimming around in systems feelings, it's very difficult sometimes to be yourself and to be an authentic self. And today is some skills and helps in how to do that. Clients and viewers are always asking me, well, Jerry, how do I practice staying calm? How do you stay calm when you're trying to be yourself? Staying calm is an important part of the work of self-differentiation and being the authentic you. Now, why is calmness so important? Because family and relationship systems, and when I say systems, I mean the system at work, the system in your family of origin, the system within your marriage. Any relationship you are in is a system. And they operate and infuse us with anxiety, fight or flight. Chronic anxiety and reactivity has been the norm for most of our lives, except for those few who are narcissistic and sociopathic. They don't have any anxiety. They don't worry about anxiety. Whereas those of us who've grown up in dysfunctional families, we have lots of anxiety. And that keeps us from being ourselves, being able to see what's going on around us and function within the system as an adult, as a mature adult, as someone our age, rather than someone quite young. Let me illustrate that with like the going home to your family of origin, in which we kind of become childlike or childish, or we become reactive, easily hurt, rejected, controlled, and we may be 50-some years old, and we still go back into that system and have all of those reactions going within us. That's that anxiety that's flowing through the system that we get caught up in, and we are not differentiated from. We get caught up in it, and then we have a hard time being ourselves, declaring ourselves, being calm, being non-reactive. And this system flows with chronic anxiety. And that current of anxiety flows through everyone in the family, everyone in the workplace, everyone in the marriage system. The work of self-differentiation is the circuit breaker for that chronic anxiety flowing through you and all those around you. It breaks that circuit so that all those feelings that are within the system don't keep flowing through you, causing you to be not your age, causing you to withdraw, get reactive, be angry, be hurt, and all kinds of other negative feelings, shame, guilt. The limbic brain, or this lizard brain that we have, is very hard to challenge. And it is this limbic and lizard brain anxiety we experience daily if we grow up in dysfunctional families. But even a little shift in that limbic brain, even a little shift in that unconscious part of us, can make a big difference in recovery from codependency, narcissistic abuse, emotional abuse, physical abuse, neglect, parentification, physical abuse, sexual abuse, adult children of alcoholic abuse, and many other family traumas. Calmness is the beginning of that circuit breaker. When I work with clients, I help them to remain calm through each stage of the work of self-differentiation. And I've been considering maybe writing a book on the stages of self-differentiation and doing that work. Those stages would include the first stage, which is the strategizing stage or preparatory stage. It's here where we formulate the de-selfing problem that we have and analyze the system and how it's working in us and how it's working with everyone. And the task during this stage is systems thinking, learning to think systems, and reducing anxiety are the tasks at this preparatory stage. And again, you will hear me refer to books by Jenny Brown, Growing Yourself Up, which is a very good book to kind of give you an intro to systems thinking. There are other good books as well. If you want to write to me, you can. There should be information in the summary underneath the video as to how you can get a hold of me, and I can send you those resources. And it's during this first stage that we plan the self-differentiation strategy, or how we will be our authentic self, which will function independently of the family system anxiety and the family system patterns, roles, and past experiences. The second stage is the being self or declaring self stage, or the differentiation stage. It is here where we now, being aware of what's going on in the system, we take action and make our move in a non-reactive way. The tasks here are like giving ourselves a voice, staying calm, tolerating standing alone. It is during this stage that we learn to do those things. The third stage is the system reactive stage. And this is where the system reacts to the new you. And the system will react to the new you because they are used to operating in a certain way. And you're changing that. And it may not be a welcome change to the system. Often it is not. No system appreciates individuation, differentiation, selfhood. These disrupt the homeostasis, or the balance, or the equilibrium of the system, because everyone's used to you behaving, acting, speaking, and making decisions. It's used to you doing all of those things in reaction to what's going on with the system and what you have learned from the system. When we stand firm and non-reactive through this stage, the whole family or the whole system, the current, the pinging, undergoes a shift to incorporate, though often unwillingly, the new you, and increases their tolerance for the new authentic you. And some increase in tolerance, and then some even move to acceptance. But it's during this stage that the system is wanting you to change back. And there'll be all kinds of storms that will happen at this point because they want you to remain the same. They don't want you to be the new you or the new self. Whatever system you're talking about, marriage, work, church, family. And then fourthly, there's the stage of, this is the integration stage, or a greater tolerance for the new you stage. And the task during this stage is staying calm, neither exploiting nor celebrating what you have done, living your age, and then we also want to watch for hidden resistance. With those who have experienced narcissistic abuse or severe abuse or grew up in severely toxic families or workplaces, I use an alternate form of these stages. Eventually, these clients can work through these stages that I've just mentioned. Of course, weathering stage 3, which is the reactivity stage from the system, because once you stop reacting to the way the system is, then they get reactive, reacting to who you are and the new you. And it can be a real challenge, as you can imagine. I'd like to offer some steps to staying calm when the family system is not calm or it's really being reactive. What you would want to do is focus on accepting that resistance will happen. Don't fantasize and accept. Don't fantasize about acceptance and tolerance. That if I go and assert myself in the family, let's say, and I've used an example of, say, the holidays, I'm not going to come to Christmas on this day, I'm going to come to Christmas on this day because it works out for my family better. Once we make that declarative self-statement, we don't want to go, oh, I'm sure they're all going to just find that just fine. They're not going to find that fine. We've always done it this way. We want you to keep doing it this way. And so we don't fantasize about acceptance or tolerance. We expect reactivity. We expect resistance. And expecting it can begin to take the power out of it. Gauge your family. If you were to say this, what do you expect to have happen? And then what are you going to do when those things do happen? What's your reaction going to be to stand your ground, to stay non-reactive? And we also work with the worst scenarios. What is the worst case that can happen? Okay, they all stop talking to you for a while. Can you manage that? Can you handle that? Because oftentimes it's transient. It will only last for a while. Secondly, put your efforts not in defending, explaining, or apologizing for yourself. Certainly you can understand and own the fact that I am doing something different. Going to your parents and saying, hey, I know I've always come on Christmas Day, Christmas morning, but we want to stay at our home with our children that morning, and we'll come later for supper or the next day. And that we don't need to explain it, we don't need to defend it, we don't need to apologize for it. We can say this is our preference, and we have a right to a preference. We're adults, and they have a right to whatever reactions they have. If they feel hurt or angry or what, they have a right to those. You're changing the system. Put your efforts into staying calm, not responding, but staying calm. Thirdly, stay out of their systems, feelings, or thoughts. Remember, most of the feelings and thoughts that you're having when you do the work of self-differentiation are systems feelings rather than our true feelings. They're the way you're supposed to feel so that you will stay the same and not make changes. You're supposed to play your role. If your role in the family is the scapegoat and you play the scapegoat role, that works well for a family because that works for them. If you would stop playing the scapegoat role, other secrets or problems may come to the surface. So they would like you to stay the scapegoat, for example. And when you start to resist that, they're going to be unhappy because it will start to clarify and reveal some other things that they may not like. Don't over-sympathize. Don't over-empathize. Do not focus on the other. Focus on you staying calm. We're going to talk about our feelings and thoughts here in a minute. Stay out of their feelings and thoughts. You're simply stating your preference, your desire. These are your feelings, your authentic feelings, and there's a purpose for sharing them. And that you become and work on becoming okay with this is really where you are and what you feel and what you choose to do. but stay out of their feelings, their thoughts. If you start to go there, resist that. If you start saying, oh, well, mom's going to be hurt and dad's going to be mad, and stay out of their hurt, stay out of their feelings. That's theirs to work with and to deal with. They'll get over it, or they won't. That's not something you can control. And if we try to control it, we're going to find ourselves right back in the same system, doing the same thing again. And they won't have to change. They'll become nice once you change back to the old you, and they'll reward you with being nice, but now you're still back to doing what you don't want to do, what you don't like, playing a role you don't want to play, etc. Fourthly, you may even have to stay out of your feelings and your thoughts. Avoid feeling storms and thought storms. Because what happens is when we start to be our authentic self, we can then start to really rev up with system anxiety feelings, system shame feelings, system guilt feelings, and it can overwhelm us. We can have thoughts of, oh my gosh, if I don't go to Christmas, then I won't get to use the boat this summer, Dad's boat this summer, because he'll be mad at me. And then we start to worry, and ruminate. Stay out of your thought storms and your feeling storms, because these will betray you while you're learning to self-differentiate. And again, it's for the purpose of getting you back into the same old system, an emotional field and operating system that is present. Use thought feeling avoidance. I'm not going to think about this. Thought stopping. I need to stop thinking about what they're thinking. I need to stop feeling what they're feeling. Shut them off. Ignore them. Again, feelings and thoughts are important, but not now. Not after you have made a self-differentiating move. Also, it's one thing, and I have a video on systems feelings versus real feelings. Real feelings we want to encourage. Systems feelings we want to resist and to expel from us. Fifthly, increase your criticism tolerance. Work hard to challenge your shame, guilt, fear, hurt, because these are systems feelings. They're not my true feelings. They're the feelings you're supposed to have to function as you normally functioned in the system. And again, I would watch that video that I have on systems feelings versus real feelings. Sixthly, increase your ability to stand alone, to live without acceptance and without love. And again, when I say without acceptance and love, I'm actually talking about systems acceptance and systems love. And I think that's something that's very important. Because people have said, oh, well, Jerry, you just want me to live without love and acceptance anywhere in my life? No, I want you to have real acceptance and real love, but not systems acceptance and love, which are conditional. And so these are conditional feelings if you behave a certain way. And then seventh, I train and teach people to observe and not to absorb what's going on, which is kind of a general way of me saying what I've been saying about staying out of their emotions and feelings, staying on your side of the tennis net, and not absorbing all of that in you. But observing it, it's okay to observe it. Okay, mom is hurt, dad is angry, cousins are upset. Okay, we have all of those. They are all doing that. I understood that was going to happen. It's not me causing it, though they will say you're causing it. I would say you are a catalyst for it, but you're not the cause of it. I just happen to be a catalyst because I need to be myself and want to be myself. And so I'm going to do that. And then what you will find after you repeat this pattern a number of times, the system then comes to have a tinge more, a small amount more of acceptance for the new you. And even some tolerance. It may be just tolerance, it may be acceptance. It can be either one, it doesn't matter. If they will tolerate and just be cordial, I'm fine with that. They don't have to agree with me. I just need them to treat me with respect, treat me and that I'm going to be this way. Come this Christmas or come this holiday, this is what I'm going to do. And if you want me to come, this is how I'm willing to come. I hope you will watch. I've got 150 other videos that are up there on my Jerry Wise Relationship Systems YouTube channel. I hope you'll take a look at those. It will explain some of these concepts even more. I hope you'll follow me on YouTube and Facebook. And you can reach out to me on my website at www.jerrywiserelationshipsystems.com. And I want to thank you very much for joining me today, and have a great day. Hi everybody, my name is Jerry Wise, and this video is entitled 3 Fantasies That Keep You Enmeshed with Your Family of Origin. My name is Jerry Wise. I'm a life and relationship coach, and I've been helping people for over 40 years with self-differentiation, codependency, narcissistic issues, and family and marital problems. I want to mention I've got a number of workshops for rent or purchase on my website, Jerry Wise Relationship Systems. And you can also join this YouTube channel for $1.99 a month and support new videos coming out. I also have, this is the news I'm sharing for the first time, about a workshop on July 17th, 2021. It's on a Saturday. Standing Tall as an Adult Child of a Narcissist. And I hope you will join me. You can go to my website and sign up now. And if you sign up now, you'll get the best fee at this time for early bird people signing up for the website. It's a better workshop fee. So I hope you will do that. Many people try to change their behavior and their thinking and how they relate to their families. While changing thoughts and behavior are essential and are important for changing how we function in our families, it's not always the best place to begin. And this video is about fantasies that exist in our emotional life and exist in our perspective. And that what we want to do is change our perspective, which will help us change our thinking and our behavior with our family of origin. Changing perspective is not simply thinking differently or just behaving differently. Changing perspective is about feeling differently, which affects our thinking process. I like Edwin Friedman's statement that perspective is centered in our emotions versus our thoughts. And I think the more mature and the more self-differentiated we become, our perspective is more found in our thoughts, beliefs, principles, values. But while we're still growing up, it finds itself focused in our emotions. Your perspective is a way of feeling, which affects how you are thinking and how you see the world. These fantasies that I'm going to talk about affect so many marriages, so many families, so many workplaces, religious groups, and many other types of relationships. If we hold on to fantasies about our family of origin, this will skew our reality and how we see things. These fantasies have a strong emotional component. They live in our emotional field, and they live within the emotional field within the family. They are often unconscious fantasies, particularly before we've begun doing our recovery work. We often are not even aware of some of these fantasies, and I'll be sharing those with you here in a moment. These fantasies are very powerful in that if the spell or the trance of these fantasies is broken or are broken, we can feel like life is over, or my world will fall apart, or at the very least, I will never get my needs met. And these are powerful pulls inside of us. They can feel so intense that they are equivalent to our existence even. But they are a myth. We believe them with our feelings, but not truly with our logic and with our rational mind. But those feelings do affect how we think. And in fact, I often use the phrase, the situation is hopeless, but not serious. These fantasies are hopeless, but they're not serious because they don't have the devastating effect we think they would have if we let them go. If we really thought about these fantasies or these myths, we would probably laugh and say they're ridiculous. But we don't because it's too scary and often they're unconscious. So what are 3 of these fantasies? And of course there are more fantasies than these, but here are some three that I find very often. And by the way, this is us as an adult, not us as a child. As an adult, I still believe I'm waiting for my mother, father, or family I have always wanted and needed. And without the love of my parents, siblings, etc., I cannot be happy. That's one fantasy. That's one myth. Number 2, if my family would only love, accept, and care about me, then I will feel loved and accepted and cared about, and I'll have an inner sense of being loved and accepted. And so we wait for that to happen or try to make that happen. And then thirdly, if I can only fix, help, support, plead, complain enough, argue enough, worry about, obsess about them, my family, or do what they say they want me to do, then I will be able to change. And if I change for them, they will change for me. And those are ingrained in many of us. These are some of the common fantasies we have about our family of origin. Well, let's take the first fantasy. I'm waiting for my mother and father or family I've always wanted and needed. And I'm just trying to make that family show up and trying to make that family arrive. And without the love of my parents and siblings and family, I won't be able to be happy. Let me talk about Kevin and his self-absorbed dad. Kevin stays connected to his father, intensely connected, enmeshed with his father. He believes he can one day be happy if only his dad will love him unconditionally and accept him unconditionally. Kevin has spent decades and decades trying to get his dad's approval, love, acceptance around his career, his relationships, his politics, his religion, everything about life. If only I will agree with Dad, he will love and accept me. If only I do what he wants me to do, then he will pat me on the head and love me and embrace me as another adult. If only I get the job Dad thinks I should have, he would be proud of me. And if I would feel, and I would then feel good or fulfilled inside. But if I someday achieve Dad's approval, then he will stop being controlling and become loving. So I must work at getting his approval. Since I see the source of my well-being as in Dad's acceptance, love, approval, then I must keep working to achieve this. If I ever thought I might never get this, I would be devastated, and life would not be worth living. Do you see how the fantasy about his father rules Kevin and keeps him locked in a box? As long as we are pursuing fantasies or myths, and as long as we are pursuing the impossible, the more we will neglect ourselves and becoming who we truly are. And this fantasy will keep us from maturing, from functioning as a whole and healthy adult, and it will be a hindrance to the family system to not mature and not grow up. But we get stuck in that dynamic. And remember, the situation is hopeless, but not serious. The loss of these fantasies are hopeless. But they're not that serious. It's just we've thought they are. Number 2, fantasy 2. If my family would only love, accept, and care about me, then I will feel self-love, self-esteem, an inner sense of being loved, cared about, and accepted. This fantasy is based on the myth that as an adult, if I get love from others, I will feel loved inside and will love myself. That's not an adult reality or rule. That's a rule for a child. A child needs love from others. A child needs nurturing from others. As adults, that's not how we feel loved, by going out and getting love from everybody. That's not how it works when we're adults. It changes. The rules change when we become adults. And I think that's a whole nother video in itself, how our rules change from being a child to being an adult. No longer can you love me enough for me to love myself. You could give me 1,000 tons of love, but that may not change how I feel about me. And oftentimes it doesn't. I have tried that. Many of you have tried that. And you've tried to help, overfunction, give, love, show everything, and it doesn't seem to change their self-esteem or their sense of who they are. Because that's not how it works as adults. It has to work from within. But now we are adults. We are not being parented by other adults. We are now charged with the parenting ourselves, for ourselves. That's probably in my marriage and family therapy training, realizing that's one of the real downfalls of marriages, is there is this mythical hope that my spouse will do all that my family of origin couldn't do. And then we get into conflict, problems, difficulties in the marriage because I'm waiting on you to meet all those needs my family didn't. John never felt loved or accepted growing up. He always felt like a scapegoat of the family, and the family used him to discard all their unwanted feelings, unwanted truths, and dysfunctional relationships. He kept the family in balance by being the scapegoat. He maintains the equilibrium. They have denial and don't want to see things. And so if we scapegoat John, we can keep that balance in our family. From this, he developed the battle to win his family back, or to win their acceptance or goodwill, enough to stop scapegoating him. The problem with ending scapegoating by family members is not with their thinking, but with their emotional perspective, as I mentioned Edwin Friedman talked about. perspective is emotional. It's not just your thoughts. Because certainly you can go to the family and say, do you see how you're scapegoating me? Let me list the ways. Have you ever done that? And were you ever successful? Because they wouldn't, oftentimes would not hear that. They wouldn't accept it. The reason they wouldn't hear it or accept it, even though it's logical, is because their perspective is down here that they're not aware of. And so it's not going to infiltrate here. And you're trying to infiltrate here, and that won't work. And again, it's not what they're thinking, it's with their emotional perspective, which they are not aware of. John thinks and feels, if only I can take enough blaming, enough rejection, enough guilt or shame, then maybe I'll be seen as a victim and they will have empathy and see, oh, we shouldn't do this to John. And if I change myself enough, then they will see me in a more positive light and end the scapegoating. And then many people want me to help them do that. The only problem is that is a fool's errand. It's not the right map. It's not the right direction to go with regard to scapegoating. Again, the problem is not them seeing you in a negative light. It's deeper than that. It's not them seeing you in a negative light. It's deeper than that. It is them, the family's need to deny, blame, reject, and keep the light off the darkness within the family. Let me say that again. The problem is not them seeing you in a negative light. And that's what everybody thinks. Well, they just see me in a negative light. Why don't they just stop that? Because that's not just the problem. That's the result of the problem. It's deeper than that. It is them feeling the family's need to deny, blame, and reject to keep the light off the darkness within the family. And that's an emotional systems perspective and systems feelings. John believes strongly this is the only family he has. He must resurrect or heal himself through his family. I can only heal if I get them to stop scapegoating me. There's only one path to hope and emotional salvation. Get my family to change. Make them see they are hurting me. Make them see they are being unfair and uncaring, and prove to them that I am not who they think I am. And oftentimes, we're not even sure how we think about ourselves. And many times we believe about ourselves what our family believes about us. And again, it's not about these things. It's much deeper. It's not about convincing, and will never be about convincing. They will need to have a perspective change, which will only happen on a deeper emotional level. And I've helped people to work towards getting out of the way of them having that deeper emotional level. Because if we keep playing into the myth and playing into the fantasy, it enables them to keep their perspective as it is. I have had people ask me to try to convince their parents to stop scapegoating them, or to convince a mother-in-law that her son should not be the focus of her criticism and rejection. You can see the difficulty with that. It's not about convincing. We need to function differently. That will be the convincing. We need to stop playing our role. We need to stop functioning in that way within the family. And that's a whole nother video that we can talk about. But John feels stuck. He feels he must accept the situation and just keep trying and trying and trying, because he feels there's no other choice. There's no other perspective. And John's fantasy and myth and belief brings me to the third fantasy. If only I can fix, help, support, plead, complain, argue, worry about, obsess about them, or do what they say, then I will eventually be able to change. And if I change for them, they will change for me. And that's a myth and fantasy. And it's wasted time and energy to head that direction. Susie has a mother who is always needy. Her dad was a distant, traditional 50s father who drank too much, cool, unfeeling, hard worker, and had an allergy to feelings and intimacy. And I mentioned this to a client today when I said, if the family was about non-feelings, then everything is about feelings. And we don't want everything to be about feelings. But if you have non-feeling family, then everything is about feelings. And the father showed his love by providing. Susie and her mother were always attached emotionally because mom wasn't happy in the marriage. Now Susie is an adult, but can't do anything without worrying about her mother's emotional life, her mother's stability, health, happiness, even to the point of it interfering in her own marriage with Bob. The myth she believes is that her mother is helpless and will always need someone, i.e. Susie, to help her be happy and to not sink down into unhappiness. Susie believes she is her mother's rock. Susie feels like the strong one and lone self to mom, and this all seems very normal for her, and that's the way things are, she believes. And again, that's her emotional perspective. Logically, it's rather crazy, but emotionally it makes total sense. Susie lives the fantasy that dad may someday change and nurture her mother, or if she thinks, well, he's not going to change, so I'll always have to stay the rock for my mother. She also lives in the fantasy that mom may someday be happy and not needy, and with her help, Susie's help, the family will be healthier and meet Susie's needs to feel loved, cared for, and nurtured by great parents who are emotionally well. Or she feels guilty that she's supposed to take care of her mother who has learned helplessness, and that if she stays engaged with that, there's no other options. She just has to do it. And one day, Susie believes that she will not have to care for or parent her mother and worry all the time about her mother's emotional well-being, believing that if they change, then Susie can change, and she can change her emotional enmeshment with her mom and her overfunctioning with her mom. So I'm going to keep overfunctioning until mom starts functioning. That's going to be a problem. You may need to stop overfunctioning first so that mom can deal with her underfunctioning. If you keep overfunctioning, then you're enabling the underfunctioning. You can't save your mom from a unhappy marriage with her husband. We can't do that. That's their choices that they've made for decades. Again, if they change, then Susie will be able to change and be happy. Nope. Another example of how these family of origin fantasies can work against us. Let's talk about Mary Ann. Mary Ann's family of origin are difficult to relate to and are distant and often rejecting of Mary Ann. The family expects Mary Ann and her family to visit often and to attend all the holidays. They don't share feelings. They always stay superficial, except when criticizing Mary Ann. They want Mary Ann to not rock the boat of the family's rigid stability. She's never to talk about dad's drinking or his behavior when he's drunk. Ignore issues and be loyal to the family and never disagree with mom or dad. and the world outside is to be viewed with suspicion. Marianne has always been strongly connected to her family because there is no detaching or no self-differentiation that's really allowed in the family, and she's not allowed to be her authentic self because that wouldn't fit in the family very well. And so Marianne hides her religious, political, and emotional views and her beliefs, hides her interests and her disinterests. And for example, Dad's incessant ramblings about Formula One racing, which Marianne has no interest in. And she won't ever deal with that or share that with her dad because she would be rejected, criticized, or shamed by him. She can't imagine living without her family as a source of herself and hope that one day it wouldn't be this way. She often feels she must settle for very little in life, very little in love, very little in relationships, and very little in happiness. And she often asks, whenever she challenges those thoughts or beliefs, she often asks, well, what would I do without them? And I'm going, well, what do you do with them? They don't nourish you or support you, but drain you and criticize and shame you. But Marianne believes the myth that without family, she will have nothing and never any happiness or a sense of belonging. And yet she doesn't belong now. And yet she's not happy now. But then she will have nothing if she addresses that or changes that. And the fantasy that if she plays her role, she can negotiate this difficult family and stay connected at a very, very high price. But this is an extremely high price. And is that high price worth it? Are the questions. Let me summarize the three fantasies in a brief way. Happiness only can come through having a happy family of origin. Number 2, I will change only if they change. In other words, I can't be happy unless they make me happy. I can't feel loved or be loved unless they love me. Thirdly, I can only feel really loved when my family chooses to really love me. And then I will feel loved. And if they are nice to me, again, I will change only if they change. If they would be nice to me, then I would be open up to them and be my real self. And we're waiting on that change to happen before we are our real selves. I want to thank you again for joining me today. I hope this discussion was a help for you. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel. There's workshops to look at and workshop coming up on July 17, 2021. Look at my website for that, those topics and what we're going to be discussing. I want to thank you for joining me today. Have a great day and be wise. Hey, hi, everybody. My name is Jerry Wise, and I want to ask you, does your spouse or your partner have a dysfunctional family? And do you know what to do if that's the case? Today, I want to talk about that briefly. First of all, there are so many different types of dysfunctional families, as you well may imagine. Smothering and enmeshed families, controlling, critical and argumentative families, cutoff families, abusive families, delusional and distortive families, families who just make things up out of whole cloth, families who distort what's being said and done and what they see. There are volatile families or moody families where you never know who you're going to get when you get together or when you call them or when you never know what mood they're going to be in. There are bigoted, racist, non-accepting, and families full of prejudice. And maybe that has affected you as well. Because not always do we marry someone our family is really thrilled with. Whether they are of a different religion, a different skin color, a different background, that can all be problematic, and there can be prejudice and racism and non-accepting going on within spouses' families. Then there are the alcoholic and drug addicted families. Those are not easy to deal with either. And what do we do? In all of these types of families, and even other types of families, you can talk with someone, and I would recommend getting some help from a coach or a therapist. You can talk about the distinct kinds of problems that may come up with those specific types of dysfunctions. However, there are some universal things that I want to share with you today that kind of fall in the category of whatever type of dysfunctional family. These are some things to remember to do. And if you'd like to learn more about those and go into greater depth, I have an online program listed below in the description that you can go to and check out. There's also an online training that's free that's down there as well. So there's a couple links you can check out if you'd like to know more, learn more, and know how to deal with these things more effectively. So given there's so many different types of families out there, first of all, we want to remember that we will need to probably be setting boundaries with the in-laws and maybe even with our spouses or with our partners. That boundaries are very important. And you may want to learn about boundaries more. There's some great books out there on boundaries. My online program has a whole segment on boundaries, both internal boundaries and external boundaries. And what I've found in some of the boundary books is they don't talk about both. They either only talk about external, and then they kind of vaguely talk about internal boundaries. But we need internal and external boundaries. So we will need to be setting some boundaries with partner or spouse and the in-laws in an appropriate way so that we can be adults and mature with our in-laws. And that we can remain adult and mature whether they do or not. And that's very important for us. Also, we will want to decide what type of relationship I want to have with these in-laws, particularly if they're dysfunctional. What kind of relationship do I want to have? And it's okay to ask that question. Only I tell people, given exactly how they are now, what type of relationship would you like to have with them? Not what type of pie-in-the-sky relationship would you want to have with them, or what type of relationship you'd like to have with them if they were different. No, the way they are right now, what type of relationship would you like to have with them? And that's the best question, I think, to ask. And the same is true for you and your partner. You can talk to your partner, your spouse, about, well, what kind of relationship do we want to have with your family and with your parents? That's not just based on family expectations, family rules, the family super self, meaning how you're supposed to behave in the family, because then it's just an extension of our childhood into our adulthood. I'm an adult. I'm not a child anymore. I don't have to go to that holiday on that day. I don't have to do that anymore if I don't want to. And what kind of relationship do I want to have? And if you're going to be setting some boundaries, you need some help. Check out help with a coach or therapist. I have coaches, or you can work with me. You can check online and we'd be happy to meet with you and help you with those things. So we have to decide what kind of relationship we want to have with them, whatever their dysfunction, from drug addiction all the way to just good old and neurotic and anxious, and there's a whole continuum all the way from somebody who's just kind of a pain to somebody who is malignantly toxic. So there's a whole continuum. And I'm sharing with you some general advice that would apply to all the continuum. Then there'd be some unique advice depending upon where families land on that continuum. I think it's important we remember, we married our spouses. We also kind of married his family or her family. Now, that doesn't mean all bets are off. that doesn't mean if I marry your family as well in some way, it doesn't exclude being respected. It doesn't exclude me having a self. That's not what being married to your family means. It just means we have some shared life with your family. But that doesn't mean I can be treated any old way, any old time. Particularly if a partner or spouse is very, very heavily connected with their family, then it's an awful lot to expect them to just cut all that off. And if it's problematic and they don't see it, then you need to get some help for yourselves as a couple. And again, there is some shared life with that, whether we like it or not, whether we don't want it or do want it. That comes with the package, because a family has a super self and an emotional process or an emotional Wi-Fi that's going out. And if you marry into that, you're going to be affected by that emotional Wi-Fi, is what I'm saying. And that we discuss a lot more in the online program. Don't try to change your partner or spouse's family. And certainly don't try to do it without the support of your partner. They should probably take the lead. The blood child should, I think, be the point man on addressing their family. If my mother is giving my wife a hard time and is just being unreasonable, and Susan or Mary or whoever is complaining to me about it, and it's just not appropriate, then I might go to my mother and say, Mom, we're on the same team, my wife and I, and that's not okay, and you need to stop doing that. You really need to stop doing that, and you're hearing that from your son, who is your biological son. Now, I'm not saying spouses can't stand up for themselves. They can. And if Susan or Mary, whoever I'm married to, wants to address my mother about that, they can. And hopefully my mother will take it and will take it in and use that information. If she doesn't, then I think it's good for the blood relative to step in. The wife with her family, the husband with his family. Because I think there's, in some ways, almost a stronger voice, and then there's less likely they're going to scapegoat the partner. Oh, well, Mary's just a troublemaker. Our son, Jerry, is so wonderful. But Mary came and talked to me about, oh, no, I don't want that. I'm going to talk to you, Mom. I can be the scapegoat, not her. You can blame me. That's perfectly fine. So, and don't try to change your partner's family. It usually doesn't work very well anyway, because otherwise you will be scapegoated, you'll be blamed, and probably ostracized, because that happens so frequently when we do that. And we particularly have that problem if your spouse or your partner is not on the same page with you and there's not unity. So if a spouse or partner has a dysfunctional family, you have to get that unity going with the two of you. Otherwise, the family will overwhelm your unity. And we can talk more about that in other videos. So I would suggest getting a coach or getting a therapist. Don't try to go it alone if you can't come to some agreement with your partner. Talk with your partner about the problems and about the expectations. Hey, honey, hey, Don, what do you expect from me with your family? This is how your family kind of treats me. What do you expect from me? And what expectations do you have for your family and how they treat me? And here are some of the problems that I've seen. Can we work through those or talk about those, Don? Remember that you and your partner have choices. You can go full contact with the dysfunctional family with boundaries or healthy boundaries. You can go low contact. You can go no contact with an emergency plan. If somebody were to get sick or somebody goes to the hospital or whatever, they could let you know. Or some people go full no contact and they don't want to hear anything no matter what happens. There's such toxicity here. It doesn't matter what happens in the family. It's unfortunate, but that if they're on this end of the continuum down here, very, very toxic, there are people like, I don't want to have any. I don't care what goes on. Because then we're going to pretend to be normal within a very abnormal family. Oh, well, you don't want to know if your father passes away? Well, under normal circumstances, I would. And I think most people would like to know if their father passed away. But there are circumstances in which it may not matter one bit. Maybe that father has been extremely abusive, manipulative, narcissistic, mean, hurtful. Then it's like, do I really care? And I don't have to care. Even though society thinks I'm bad for not caring, walk in my shoes, and then you decide whether you would care or not. Don't talk to me about your rules for your family, because you may not have a family that's anything like mine. So, many people think, well, just do the normal rules. Don't do normal rules for abnormal families. It doesn't work. Also, avoid family triangles. It's very easy to get caught up in triangles. Mom-in-law talks to daughter-in-law about the spouse or husband. That can be a problem. Mom talks to son about the wife. That can be a problem. Sister talks to brother about the wife, in-law. That we have all these triangles that can go on. And we want to avoid those triangles. So if I'm the blood relative, the blood family, and they come to me and say, oh, we need to talk to you about, Mary. Well, what seems to be the problem? I mean, why are you coming to me? Oh, well, she just said something really mean to Sister Madeline. Okay. Did you think Madeline maybe should go and talk to Mary? Don't you think that? I think that would be a better approach than me going to Mary. Because if I go to Mary, she's going to know exactly where this came from. It's not coming from me. She's going to know I talked to you about it. And that's not going to help the dynamics. So I think it's better if we have one-on-one communication, if at all possible. And if we can't, then maybe we need a therapist, maybe we need a coach to help us with that. It is certainly okay to stand up for yourself with the in-laws. But we stand up for ourselves to protect ourselves, not to change them. Certainly we can ask them if I would rather you not do that. I don't like it when you call me a little baby. I don't like that. Please don't do that. But if they continue to do it, then I can stand up for myself and say, well, if you're going to continue to do that, then I am probably going to have to withdraw more. I'm going to have to be more detached because I'm not going to take that. And that's unfortunate because I thought we could have a better relationship. So it's okay to stand up for yourself, but it's very difficult to go in there and try to change someone else. I've been trying to change other people for 45 plus years. And what I've found is I have a lot more success if I bring me to the situation and let them decide how they want to be. That usually is a more powerful dynamic. I hope you found this video helpful. I want to introduce you to my new step-by-step program designed to help you break free from the toxic relationship dynamics in your family, to heal your relationships, and build the real self you were never allowed to have. I personally wish I would have had access to a program like this early in my own journey. This program is an investment in yourself, your relationships, your healing, and your life. To learn more about the program, click on the program link below provided in the description. I truly believe it will have a profound effect on your life.